Okay, so I haven't done one of these in a little while, so I might be a bit out of practice. And whereas my previous videos, I've recorded what I was doing from the very beginning. Now, I started painting this picture while I was away in Melbourne. I thought I would do another block of painting on it because the first 3 hours are never quite enough to actually finish anything polished. And I got so into the concept of this. I really love where it was going that I was like, well, I'm keen to finish this, and if I use that as an excuse to record and make another video, then you guys can see how I go finalizing this picture. So I think all up, this took me about 7 hours. Like, I think it was about three for the first, maybe 3 to 4 on the second. Hard to say with, like, looking up reference images and things like that. I put a lot of thought into stuff even before you see it actually being painted. So as you know, this one was sort of a combination of the last two painting polls. With the NPC painting poll, I had to roll the dice to decide, because you guys gave me a three-way tie between Map Maker, Black Powder Merchant, and Alchemist. So I rolled a d4 and came up with Map Maker. And naturally, my next poll that went up was Pirates vs. Ninjas, and Pirates won, which is what I hoped for, because I fucking love pirates. Which you probably can't half tell by now. And all of a sudden, this idea started to form in my mind of Devon Rue, who is the amazing cartographer and artist behind the maps on Critical Role. And as I started to sort of compose this picture, I thought, well, what if it's her? What if it's her in the world of Tal'Dorei, on a pirate ship somewhere, way off the coast of where the main campaign is going on, researching and recording and traveling the islands. And yeah, that once that idea sort of latched itself into my brain, I kind of got on a roll. I'd used originally just a sort of a modern photograph of a guy sitting at a map desk. So I really liked the foreshortening that this came up with. And normally when I do a concept like this, I'd sort of put an opaque layer over it and then redraw like a really nice, clean, detailed sketch before I went to color. But because what I started with here was more of a value painting, I was really interested in how the light and shading would work, given the stacks of paper and like I said, the foreground sort of, coming in real close. And I was less concerned about clean lines and more interested in light and shadow here. I still don't think I super got the candlelight and stuff very well, but I'm so happy with the way that paper curled. Like, I think that's really cool. So yeah, so what you see me doing here is pretty much fuddling around with my one painter brush, which I can't remember exactly. I've gotten it from, one second, I'm gonna check my resources folder. It was the Jamie Jones brush pack. Jamie Jones being a god of digital painting. So I sort of got my one trusty, reliable, sort of soft textured paintbrush that I like to use for stuff like this. And I was sort of just working my way around trying to paint away the sketchy details. And then I had to go back to my reference folder and find a couple of those good old like cartographer tools, get some references up that I could cross-check against. I also realized that I'd sort of left Devon grayscale. I hadn't added a color palette to her beyond her hair. No, I didn't want to come across like a creeper, but yeah, she does. She's only got sort of one or two profile pictures online, which is totally fair enough. But I knew from that it was red hair and the lip piercing. So I wanted to make sure I had the red hair in. The rest was up to interpretation by me, I figured. So I was mainly thinking of giving her a color palette that wasn't too brown or warm, because otherwise she'd just get lost in the background. There's so much wood and paper going on here. She needed to be a little bit more on that blue end. So I sort of gave her this tinted blue purpley coat, I guess. Nothing too strong, because again, if you went too vibrant, it'd clash with the hair, and you just get confused. So I just wanted to hint at some color. I think the most important thing I did here was actually put some color in her skin tone, which I think immediately boosts up the vitality of this picture. I feel like artistically, my style is definitely veering towards that of the Blizzard Hearthstone realm, which I'm totally okay with. That is certainly a lot of art that I spend a lot of time looking at and trying to emulate. So yeah, so I'm adding bits of highlights in here, and I already feel like now that I've given color to the character, this picture is looking so much better. So you can see me flipping back and forth between what I started with and what I've got now. It's easy to forget where you were. It's nice to check, even if it means making sure you haven't lost sight of the original concept, because sometimes that can happen. You can get carried away and go, oh, I've missed a crucial element that I really liked. I've accidentally painted over it. So I grabbed a reference shot of this metal compass of Devon Ruse, which I desperately want one of my own. That I kind of am thinking of. I'll probably order one of those after this. Even if it never makes it to my campaign, I love compasses. I have a compass tattooed on my back. If you didn't know, I often utilize the symbology of compasses very heavily, as the idea of forging forth into the unknown and daring greatly. Going into uncharted places, both metaphorically and physically, but also having an internal compass that always points to your true north, your spiritual identity, your meaning for life. Like, compasses are just pretty. What can I say? So I've got another image up here, which is one of Devon's maps. I just wanted to get a little bit of sample inspiration of how to tackle the map in the middle. Maps have never been a strong point of my own, but I love the little details like the framing of the border, the way the mountains are drawn, and I want to work that in. Just adding a chain to that compass there. I was thinking a lot about the shading, as I said earlier, about there's a lot of stuff sitting on top of stuff, and I want that to sort of feel heavy and weighted. More so than I'm concerned about having crisp lines. Just trying to give form to the idea that I had. So yeah, this is a very, very free form painting. Slowly cleaning up bits and pieces as I think of it. Sort of casually working my way around the canvas. I think, yes, that's right. I started thinking about the other compass. I think that's what they're called as well for drawing circles. Again, going back to my reference here to make sure that I actually have that right. So that like the shape I had on my sketch wasn't exactly what it's meant to look like, so I'd clean that up. Again, thinking about the shading as I did so. Just trying to paint in those highlights. So I figured since this was a D&D inspired world, I had to have a couple of dice sitting on the table because that only made sense. And something I really liked about this photo I have here is the way you've got pink and white highlights on the faces of the dice and where they sit to give it that kind of gemstone type look. So I try to reproduce that as I'm going along. Sometimes it's easier just to paint out sections entirely to get rid of the messiness that I've originally started with, so that's what I did with the book. I think in the end I sort of freeformed the map just a little bit. I wanted to give a nice impression without, I figured if it got too detailed, like, I want you to look at her face, I want you to, like, sort of flow around the picture. If you got too detailed on the map, it'd I don't know. I'm just making up excuses. I was lazy. I wanted to have a like sort of ship's window. I don't know what you call them, the round ones. Porthole. That's a word. Porthole. I have totally been playing pirate games for months. I should know this stuff. Um, Speaking of which, Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire. Holy shit. This is my new favorite game ever. Whenever someone lets me talk about it, I don't shut up. But seriously, like if you like RPGs, definitely go check it out. It's a unique world, and you get to have a pirate ship, which is everything I've ever wanted in a game. But yeah, so this picture I'm really happy with. I really liked the composition. I'm getting to a point now where I'm thinking, okay, I'm just doing little touch-ups. It's very easy to get sucked in. So how I was saying before about I wasn't sure about going into too much detail on the map, one thing I did want to do is go into detail on the face, because as with most of my pieces, they're character-driven, and so the cleanest part of my picture always wants to be the character's face, because that's the bit that you're connecting to. That's the bit that's showing emotion. So I'm just working over the roughness and just trying to define that out a little more. Really make those eyes clear, but still get a little bit of reflection in the glasses. Clarify the shading and the colors so they're just not muddy. Again, I'm using a lot more of just straight up painting versus what I do a lot at the moment, which is just with clean line drawing, sketchy stuff. Yeah. Ah, I don't know. I was just super stoked with this. Anyway, I did put this up online, and Devon was absolutely chuffed. I think I made her day, which just blew me away because I wasn't thinking any further than making a really beautiful image, and I'm just gobsmacked by her sharing the piece and the amount of people that have loved it, and just I'm so glad that I've had that impact for her specifically, and that people like it. I know. I'm out of words. I sort of sat here like happily teary for a while as Devon and I exchanged messages about just supporting each other as artists and supporting other artists in the community and how important that is. Sent me a really great quote, which was, "A rising tide lifts all boats," which I thought was very apt given the theme here. I think even if you're not a creative, supporting creatives in the industry, like we love supporting each other. I think, like, I know people talk about rivalry and jealousy and competition, and I'm like, the most I've ever seen from an artistic community is just sheer joy in each other's creation and gaining energy from seeing other people do what they love and making other people happy. And I think for me, if a painting of mine has brought joy to someone's life, then I've done what I was meant to be here for. Like to get really spiritual and sappy. Like that's what I'm here to do. That's my ultimate goal more than anything else, is to bring joy and make people happy and inspire people. And I think Devon inspired me with her map making, and I'm so pleased to feel like I've inspired her with this piece, and I hope I continue to inspire people like this to, even if it's in their own work, or to go out and do their own thing, please. Like, I would love to see what you do. I don't know. I'm getting really emotional. Call it PMS. Yeah, I can definitely say this is a piece I'm really proud of. Oh god, the video's still going. And I'm done.